Making his way to the ring, weighing 244 pounds, Fandango!
What agility, what poise, what athleticism. It's Fandango time.
Fandango's taking the world by storm.
This is breaking news. Fandango suffers a concussion.
I was supposed to win the IC title at some pay-per-view and I got knocked out and I didn't tell the office and I got some heat for that.
Fandango might just be one of the saddest tales of an unrealized push in WWE history. An over-the-top dancing gimmick turned overnight sensation, it seemed as though he was primed for main roster success at one point in his career. Fast forward to 2021 however, and he was released from WWE, never really accomplishing much throughout his tenure. So what exactly happened? How can a man who once defeated Chris Jericho at WrestleMania in his debut match end up becoming a glorified jobber in less than a year? For us to really understand Fandango's wasted potential, let's go back to when he first waltzed his way into our television screens. After failing to catch any kind of traction as Johnny Curtis, WWE Creative decided to give the then NXT Season 4 winner a much-needed repackaging. In November of 2012, vignettes started airing of a charismatic and flamboyant-looking ballroom dancer that would be simply known as
Fandango.
And judging by the likes to dislikes ratio on WWE's YouTube videos, fans initially weren't too excited about this new character. These vignettes would continue to be shown for several months until finally on the March 1st, 2013 episode of SmackDown, Fandango made his first live appearance on a backstage interview with Matt Striker. He was scheduled to debut later that night but then changed his mind after Matt apparently mispronounced his name. And for weeks, Fandango would keep on refusing to wrestle until everyone could get his name right. But then he ran into Chris Jericho, who decided to openly mock Fandango during a backstage segment, butchering his name on purpose.
Fandango, Fandango, Fandangler.
The dancer unsurprisingly took offense to this, so the following week on Raw, he came out to the ring and brutally beat down Y2J after his match. Jericho would later return the favor, attacking Fandango before his scheduled match, which delayed his debut yet again. This would all culminate at WrestleMania 29 as Fandango wrestled Chris Jericho in his first ever televised match on the main roster. While many clearly saw this as a huge demotion for Jericho, himself included, Fandango more than held his own against the veteran and actually delivered a decent outing. However, the most shocking part in all of this was the result, as he would score a huge upset victory over Jericho, showing just how high management was on the new gimmick. And on the Raw after Mania, Fandango's popularity would skyrocket in ways nobody could have ever expected. During his match with Kofi Kingston, a smarky New Jersey crowd started humming and dancing to the tune of his music, much to the announcer's surprise.
They're actually humming Fandango's entrance theme.
But then a bitter Chris Jericho would later come out and mercilessly assault Fandango, causing a disqualification. This did not stop the crowd from partying to his music though, and WWE even played the song again right as the show went off air. And that one bizarre night inadvertently kickstarted a new internet dance craze called Fandangoing. It went so viral in fact that WWE themselves had to acknowledge it at one point, which also kind of ruined the bit since fans saw this as the company's attempt to force the hype. It also didn't help that Fandango himself continued with his heel antics instead of turning babyface, calling out the crowd for butchering his dance and mispronouncing his name. Still, he was able to garner major fan support around this time, even getting one of the biggest pops of the night during WWE's UK show. Fandango also found himself playing a bigger role in WWE's hit television show, Total Divas, where he formed an on-screen relationship with his dance partner, Summer Rae. And after an initially hot winning streak, he would experience a slight setback at Extreme Rules where he lost in a rematch with Chris Jericho. He quickly bounced back from it though, this time setting his sights on the Intercontinental Championship. During a title match between The Miz and Wade Barrett, Fandango decided to cause a distraction by literally dancing to his music on ringside. This annoyed Miz so much that he ended up taking out the dancing goof, to which Fandango retaliated by causing a disqualification, costing the A-lister his title opportunity. And after the match, Dango and Barrett took turns beating down the Miz until the champ decided to turn on his temporary ally with a bull hammer to the face. The following week, Fandango would score a huge victory over Barrett when Miz, who was the special guest referee, blindsided him with a skull-crushing finale. And as revenge for costing him the title, he also kicked Dango to the face during his celebration. With tensions continuing to rise between all three men, a triple threat match for the Intercontinental Championship was announced for the Payback pay-per-view. However, weeks before the show, Fandango would suffer an untimely concussion during a match with Zack Ryder, which led to him getting pulled out of the event and replaced with Curtis Axel, who went on to win the Intercontinental Championship. In later interviews, Fandango would reveal that he was actually booked to win the title had he not gotten injured. Unfortunately, this ended up massively derailing his push as management quickly soured on the new prospect. After being out of action for almost a month, Fandango returned on the July 1st edition of Raw, losing to Sheamus via countout. While he would find himself in the mix for the World Heavyweight Championship Money in the Bank ladder match, he was ultimately unsuccessful in retrieving the briefcase. And on the weeks that followed, his stock further took a nosedive as he went on a rough losing streak, jobbing out to pretty much everybody in the roster not named Kofi Kingston. Come August, Fandango would revisit his feud with The Miz after the A-lister stole one of his outfits and badly impersonated him. This led to a match at Clash of Champions where he picked up yet another pay-per-view loss. By late 2013, Fandango had completely lost all momentum from his initial hype, getting some wins here and there, but mostly being used to put over more important talent. He was able to get another IC title shot to cap off the year by beating Dolph Ziggler in a present in a pole match, but then he failed to take the gold from Big E. Fandango wouldn't see a lot of change in his fortunes the following year as he continued to slide down the card and get lost in the shuffle. And yet, even with his push seemingly buried, WrestleMania 30 showed that Fandangoing is still alive and well as he got one of the biggest reactions of the night during the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. This didn't translate to anything of course, and trouble would continue to find Fandango as after getting embarrassed by Emma and Santino in mixed tag team action, he decided to break up with his dance partner / romantic interest Summer Rae over on Twitter of all places. With Summer out of the picture, or so he thought, Fandango immediately found a replacement in Layla, who turned out to be a major upgrade as they soundly defeated Emma and Santino not once, but twice. However, things did not stay smooth sailing for long as Summer returned on the June 13th episode of SmackDown and beat the crap out of Layla, which then led to a mixed tag team loss for the dancing duo. And after several weeks of fighting over the same guy, things would finally come to a head when Summer faced Layla in singles action, with Fandango serving as special guest referee. Being the narcissistic ladies' man that he was, Dango ended up making out with both women before the match and then danced out of satisfaction for his handiwork. Disgusted, Layla and Summer turned on Fandango, beating him up and dancing in celebration together after. The humiliation did not end there though, as in the weeks that followed, his now ex-partners would show up and interfere in his matches, leading to another string of losses for the dancer. Things got so comically bad that WWE eventually just pulled him out from live programming without any explanation. And after 3 months of absence, Fandango returned to the Survivor Series 2014 kickoff show, sporting an entirely new theme song and even a new dance partner in Rosa Mendez. This new and improved Fandango would make light work of Justin Gabriel before going back to his winning ways in the months that followed. Only problem was, this change didn't really address any of his underlying problems. Sure, he was winning a lot during this time, but it was mostly against other jobbers, not to mention the lack of any meaningful feuds and storylines for the character to get over, so fans really did not care. So, after losing to Stardust on the April 13th, 2015 edition of Raw, Fandango would dump Rosa Mendez and started Fandangoing to his old song with the UK crowd. For a moment, it looked as if the Fandangoing hype train was back and he was finally gonna get that long overdue push. But then he ran into a giant brick wall in the form of a reunited Eric Rowan and Luke Harper, who literally squashed any hopes of Fandango ever becoming relevant again. and after weeks of losing to the two monsters, he would slowly get relegated to wrestling on main event and Superstars, becoming sort of a mainstay there until the beginning of 2016. However, something unexpected happened on the May 12, 2016 edition of SmackDown. During a match between Goldango and the Gorgeous Truth, Fandango and Tyler Breeze would turn on their respective partners and form the duo that would be known as Breezango. This move ended up being a stroke of genius as the two struggling superstars complemented each other's gimmick so perfectly. Breezango went on to beat Goldust and R-Truth the following week on Raw, but then lost in a rematch on the Money in the Bank kickoff show. In the months that followed, the duo would find middling success, beating the Usos once in the Battleground kickoff show, but came up short multiple times in their hunt for the tag team titles. By 2017, Breezango started calling themselves the Fashion Police and became one of the most over teams on SmackDown Live thanks to the Birth of the Fashion Files, a series of comedic backstage segments where the duo try and solve crimes in fashion, an obvious rib to the popular Law & Order television show. Honestly, these segments were some of the most entertaining parts of SmackDown during this time, so much so that fans were clamoring for Breezango to win the tag team titles. And on Backlash 2017, that dream almost became a reality when they faced the Usos for the SmackDown tag team titles. Unfortunately, they were unsuccessful again in dethroning the champions. While Breezango would never win the titles during their main roster tenure, teaming with Breeze gave Fandango a sense of direction he's been lacking for years at that point. Fast forward to 2018, and Fandango would face yet another major setback as he suffered a shoulder injury that took him out for well over a year, leaving his partner alone to fend for himself. And we wouldn't see Dango again until July 31st of 2019, not on the main roster though, but on NXT, where he returned to save Breeze from an assault by the Forgotten Sons. Reunited, Breezango would thrive in NXT, winning their feud against the Forgotten Sons and even beating Imperium in 6-man tag team action, all the while looking like he hasn't lost a step. However, tragedy struck again as Fandango suffered an elbow injury during their match against the Singh brothers, capping off 2019 in a disappointing note. This took him out of action for another 5 months, and just when things are starting to look bleak, Breezango would come back stronger than ever, becoming #1 contenders for the NXT Tag Team titles on June 3rd the following year. While they would fail to capture the gold against Imperium the first time around, they'd get another shot on the August 28th edition of NXT. And this time, the Fashion Police would get the job done, winning both their first titles in WWE as the new NXT Tag Team Champions. Unfortunately, even that was short-lived as after just one successful defense, Breezango would drop the belts to Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch. This pretty much signaled the end of their push as they would be used to put over other teams for the rest of their time in NXT. And on June 25th of 2021, Fandango and Tyler Breeze would sadly be part of the mass releases in WWE. Now a free agent, Fandango would shortly return to the independent scene, changing his name to Dirty Dango and wrestling for various promotions including TNA. And more recently, he even reunited with his old partner. While it might not be the career he had envisioned when he debuted back in 2013, throughout all the injuries, he was still able to come back and squeeze in a tag team title run before his WWE tenure ended. So how bad was Fandango actually? If I was to rate the gimmick on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. Let me explain why. Unlike the other gimmicks we've seen so far that actually destroyed careers, this gimmick might have actually saved one. It was clear from the get-go that he just wasn't cutting it as Johnny Curtis, so giving him a more interesting gimmick like Fandango, however low the ceiling might be, is what brought him to the dance, so to speak. Unfortunately, Vince has been notorious for cutting the legs off guys who get injured during their push, and he never quite recovered from that. But the fact that he was able to reinvent himself and make the most out of the gimmick well past its expiration date is a testament to just how talented Fandango is. I just wish he won more titles with Breeze. They definitely deserved it. Anyway, if you watched this video all throughout the end, let me know by saying underrated in the comments below. And if you wanna see the story behind one of the worst factions ever, check out the next video in your screen. See you there.